Hi there and good afternoon. Today we are live from Amsterdam and I've got the great opportunity talking to one of our long-term customers, Mr. Paul van Trigt from Aero-X in Switzerland. Hi Paul, thanks for coming out. How are you doing?
Hi Ralf, I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Paul, before we dive deeper into those applications we found during our business relationship and all those things we designed into your products and the challenges we had to face, can you give us a short impression who you are and what Aero-X is exactly doing?
So I'm the CEO of Aero-X. Aero-X is a master distributor of various fire protection products. So we import those and then we basically sell them to our customers, but we are not just like a box mover. So we combine all these in solutions, and we develop also our own solutions based on these different types of products.
Paul, if I may remember correctly, we met first time on the fire protection conference Rolling Stock in Berlin. And this is a fire safety event where all these experts from Rolling Stock are coming together. And I believe we started talking about cable glands. What is important to you when it comes to cable glands and rolling stock, and which requirements did you have looking at our product?
It's correct, Ralf, that we met the first time in Berlin. The rolling stock market is a very important market for us, and we are protecting all different types of vehicles. So it can be passenger trains, or it can be cargo trains, or just locomotives, or the so-called rail maintenance vehicles, etc. And what all these different types of trains have in common is that they have certain areas that need to be protected against fire. That is on one hand, it has to do with the purely protecting the equipment, but on the other hand, it also has to do with protecting the passengers. And in that context, we were developing a new product line, and because of that, we were looking for different types of components that fulfill the requirements for rolling stock, which is not only like one of the standards that is, let's say, extremely high up, and everybody is talking about it, is the EN 45545, and that needs to be fulfilled. That is also a guideline or a standard that sort of like says what fire requirements or fire resistance requirements are incorporated in the product. So when we come, for example, to the one of the products that we were developing at that time is this is a control panel that we use for, let's say, the more rough environments in rolling stock. And so when you need to fulfill the EN 45545, one important part is the cable glands, because they need to fulfill that specific standard. And in this case, it was also the paint, for example, that needs to fulfill that. Yeah, but the cable glands were like one thing, and we were really looking for something that could give us fulfill all the requirements that we need for this. It was not only just that particular standard, but it is also, I can open this, hopefully. It's also one of the, I think, key parts of this cable gland is that we are talking about a seal that seals over this length. And very often other products that are available in the market, they only have a very short sealing distance. And so that was also one of the key criteria. We wanted to have it absolutely tight.
Yes, for sure. This is a well-known requirement out of the rail segment. Normally they refer to IP68, which we fulfill easily with this kind of sealing. Furthermore, of course, to give a little bit more information to our viewers, it is crucial to satisfy, in this case, the EN 45545, which is segmented in hazard levels. So we have hazard level 1, which is the lowest, we have 2 in the middle, and we have 3, which is the top one. And then beside of that, you have the criteria for interior equipment, which is a more difficult test compared to then for exterior equipment, and it's all about smoke, toxicity, and oxygen index. So it's really about life-saving aspects when it comes to the passengers. And therefore, we can confirm that our cable gland can be used everywhere because it's hazard level 3 ranked, so it's the highest level, and it's allowed for interior and exterior equipment, so that's easy. Paul, you will confirm maybe that it's also important that no mistakes happen while installing the cable glands.
Exactly.
Yeah? Okay, another thing is, Paul, the sealing aspect is very important from different point of views. How important is it to you when we talk about corrosion resistance?
Corrosion resistance is a very important part of the product, of course. The thing is, sometimes on some of the vehicles, all the equipment is mounted outside, so it can be an underfloor type application where our extinguishing systems are being mounted underneath the train, and there, of course, they face humidity, they face a lot of dirt and dust, and a very tough. It's a very tough environment, and the humidity, especially the humidity, but also the dust, of course. But it is not allowed to get into our control panels, for example, because that could cause a malfunctioning of the control panel. So that's why we need this IP68 type protection.
Correct. Additionally to that is also very important. The engineers in rolling stock, they refer to different standard, of course, not only to the fire safety standard, which is crucial, what we already said, but they also refer to a shock and vibration test. And this is really the one, it's really rough, it's done under rough conditions. And then you can really double check if the cable gland is really sealing the cable, and that exactly this does not happen, what Paul explained so far. Paul, the rail industry is, of course, not the only industry you are busy in, and this is also something Anamet and Aero-X have in common, and also the challenge we have to face, because we have to comply with a lot of different standards. And one core business of Aero-X is, as far as I remember, the tunnel bore machine business. Is that correct? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, one of our main markets is the tunnel construction industry, and we are there. We are basically protecting all the equipment during the construction phase, and one part of that is the tunnel boring machine, but also excavators, dumpers, and all that kind of equipment that is used to build a tunnel. And on a tunnel boring machine, which is can be a very small one, can be only 3 meters in diameter, but the biggest ones we have protected are 16 meters in diameter. Okay. And there you have all kinds of different types of equipment. The crucial thing on a TBM is that in most of the cases, most of the personnel is in front, where the boring is taking place. Yeah. And all the equipment is behind the people. Okay. And because a tunnel under construction is sort of like a dead-end road, in case a fire would break out in the back, the people would be trapped. And that's why it's important that a very sufficient, a very effective, but also a for human beings harmless type of extinguishing system is being installed to protect the people against fires that could happen in the equipment. And the equipment can be electrical cabinets, but it can also be hydraulic systems, it can be emergency gensets and all that kind of things. And the tunnel construction business is one of the toughest types of
Yes,
markets,
indeed.
and from a technical point of view, one of the toughest environments that you can be active in. It's like, it has extremely high vibrations, it has a lot of dust, it has a lot of humidity, and all this come together, and you, with your product or with your solution, have to fulfill all that. So it is of utmost importance that all the components that we use in such an environment are fulfilling all this, can cope with this type of environment.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the reasons why we also came to your cable glands, because we were also looking for a product that we cannot, like, for the rail business, we have this one, for tunnel construction, we have this one, for the oil and gas industry, we have another one. We wanted to have, from a spare part management point of view and from a production management point of view, we wanted to have sort of like a one-fits-all type solution.
Indeed.
And that works excellent. The thing is, on top of, like, we were talking about the EN 45545 before, but very often, like the trains or the tunnel boring machines or other types of equipment that we are protecting, they end up being in operation in the United States.
Yeah.
In the United States, it's important to fulfill the UL certification.
Of course.
And that's why we were also looking for a product that on one hand fulfills the European standards, but on the other hand also the American standards. And this type of cable glands and your cable glands, or the Anamet cable glands, they fulfill all these requirements and sort of like combine them all in one product.
Correct, Paul. As you know, we are an American-based company with a headquarters in Mattoon, Illinois. And so you can imagine that we have lots of experience when it comes to UL CSA-approved products. And that's not only the cable glands. Of course, our core business are flexible conduits and fittings. And we have plenty of those who are already, let's say, certified or UL listed. And this is really important to us. But in this case, coming back to the cable glands, it was really a challenge because the certification process of the different standards is often not very similar, let's say it in these words. So you always have to adopt somewhere and find that solution in the middle to meet both standards. And that is what we have, or where we finally succeeded. And for that reason, we could offer you this dual listed cable gland. And as you already pointed out, this helps you to get more into the direction having a one-fits-all product, and also it avoids mistakes by employees choosing the wrong cable gland in the wrong project. And we know under stress level this can easily happen. That's always a problem. And of course you don't want to stock that many different items. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think looking or searching for right solutions. I mean, we also found in you a very good partner because we at some stage we came to a point where we found out that a cable gland with only one hole was not enough, and so we needed 2 holes. But the rubber used still needs to fulfill the 45545, and so we were able to also find a solution there. I think you called it big bore.
Yes, indeed. I can remember that was that special type. If I guess right, it had 2 holes of 7 millimeters for 2 cables, in fact, of 7 millimeters. And we call that indeed big bore version because it was an M20 thread we need to use there.
Yeah, it was exactly that solution. And one important aspect of that solution was also because it was completely new in the idea, basically, that we could also get it in smaller quantities. So that helped us a lot to start it up. And now It is sort of like an integrated part of our sort of like palette of different types of solutions that we can offer.
It's good that you say that, because that's also maybe important for the viewers to know, because normally if it comes to turn parts, you start with quantities from 5,000, 10,000 or whatsoever. When it starts to get interesting, we offer that special service that we, let's say, try to offer tailor-made solutions starting from 500 pieces, depending on solution, of course. And that's the way it should go. Yeah.
I also want to stress another thing. You were talking about the conduits before.
Yes.
And I remember that at a certain point in time, we were looking for a solution to mechanically protect our linear heat detection cable.
Exactly.
This is the cable I'm talking about is this, in this case, a green cable. This cable is detecting fire also, higher temperatures. And it's an excellent cable to use for fire detection and fire protection
purposes.
Projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? But it has one disadvantage, and that is that it's mechanically relatively sensitive. And when we then come to projects in the tunnel construction business, for example, where stones can hit the bottom of the train and could also hit this cable, that would cause false alarms.
Yeah,
the cable thinks it's an alarm, but it was only a mechanical stress that happened in the cable because of an impact, a mechanical impact from outside. So we were looking for something that could solve our issue in that case. And the important thing was that on one hand, we protect the cable mechanically, but on the other hand, the cable should still be functioning the way it normally does. So it should detect temperature. So the temperature still has to come to the cable, although we are using this mechanical protection.
Correct. I can remember that. That was really a tricky challenge you come up with, but we love that, because this is really something where we had to think about. On the one hand, you want to protect the cable, as you said, mechanically wise, but on the other hand, it shouldn't be an insulating conduit. Yeah? So because the temperature needs to be there where the cable is, and then you have a kind of melting process. Is that correct? Or
yeah, there's the two conductors inside this cable. They have a special type of insulation material that melts at a certain temperature. So we have the cable in different temperatures, but as mentioned before, I mean, one of the most important things was that the temperature can still be registered by the cable, because otherwise the
worst case, yeah. So I can imagine that. And another challenge was, you know, the conduit itself, because it's not liquid tight, which was wanted, but on the other hand, it's just IP40. There's a challenge when we come back to the connections, and as you can see, we are using the same kind of gland, which is in fact, when we talk about conduits, a fitting, in this case a cable hose fitting, that's how we call it. If it's like a cable gland, a sealing inside, we use exactly the same system as we use with our cable glands, and it's anyway dual certified, so no problem there. Available in nickel plated brass or stainless steel if wanted, depending on application. And if you connect it with an IP40 grade conduit, you have that big advantage that on the enclosure side you still fulfill IP68, and that was the challenge.
And that was exactly what we were looking for, because we want to have a mechanically closed system, and we can immediately connect this to our control panels or our junction boxes. And because inside there's the same seal as I showed before in the normal cable gland, it is still absolutely watertight and dust tight, but we can still have the mechanical protection.
Absolutely.
And you helped us really a lot.
Thank you very much. Sounds really good. And yeah, I have to say it was really fun working together with you on those kind of developments. Of course, we had to do some tests if it really works out with the linear detection fire cable, if the right explanation for that. And yeah, but you know as well, wherever your application is, it is possible to us offer you the right solution with an extruded version as well. If it's not coming to protect such a linear fire detection cable, we have accessories in our program. We have stopping plugs, things like that, you know, enlargers, reducers, and this is also a big challenge to us because it's really all plug and play, and you need to be capable having those things supplying from stock if possible.
Yeah.
Lead times is something nobody wants
Nowadays.
to talk about nowadays.
And nowadays it's a big challenge.
It's a big story. Yeah. Last but not least, Paul, I think this is also a really tricky challenge, and I did not expect that so far, that fire extinguishing systems also have to deal with, let's say, hazardous location where we talk about explosion-proof equipment. And can you give us an idea in which circumstances you have to provide your systems there and the challenges you have to face?
Yeah, the thing is, we are also protecting gas turbine enclosures, but also dangerous goods type storages or other types of gen sets. And in all those areas, it can happen that we have to cope with the explosion zone circumstances. And we have a product for that. So we have an extinguisher type that is fitted to do that, but also there we came with the same or similar type of challenge. Find the rest of the system doing that as well, and one of the components again was the cable glands that need to fulfill the IECEx regulations for certain types of zones, and our fire equipment is capable of doing zone 2. Type applications. So let's say the least that we needed from a cable gland point of view was also a zone 2 type protection.
Yes.
And it is for us still a big challenge because you know yourself, explosion zone regulations are on one hand very clear, but on the other hand very fudgy. And so it is. Yeah, every project is a new challenge.
Yes, indeed. But it's also very exciting, I would guess. Yeah. And just for the viewers again, talking about ATEX or IECEx cable glands and fittings. It's the same story we had before. We offer that for flexible conduit systems in form of a fitting, and we offer that without additional cable protection in form as a cable gland. Some technical background, generally spoken, more or less, we can say our cable glands and fittings meet the requirements of XD environment zone 1 and 2 and 21 and 22. Diving deeper into that too detailedly now is maybe too much because that depends a lot on cabling, things like that. Paul, last time we met, we had a really interesting conversation, in fact, at the bar, we have to be honest. And we talked about what it means having a living partnership. And you also said something which was truly impressing to me. You said that a good supplier-customer relationship is not only based on selling the right product to the right price. Can you explain a little bit? What exactly did you mean?
I mean, of course, the right product and the right price is an important part, but it's all about the solution. And sometimes a solution can be a bit lower in revenue or a bit higher in revenue. It can move in both ways. Yeah, but it is important that you understand the needs of the customer and find the right solution to fulfill those needs. And that is, I think, based on that, you create a situation of trust when the customer sees that you offer him the right solution, not in the first place focused on revenue.
Correct.
Then you create this environment of trust, and that helps both parties the most.
If we talk about our relationship, I would say even there's much more to say. We share network, we help each other out, and yeah, of course, very important to us and to yourself as well is application knowledge. And I would like to stick to something which was really interesting. And I'm almost 9 years working for Anamet now, and I never came across such a let's say such an application, and that was about those automatic vacuum cleaners. Can you give us a little bit more input why it was necessary to use fire extinguishing system involving our products there?
Yeah, it was a bit of a special story. I got a call from a city in Switzerland, and they had these type of vacuum cleaners in operation. 10, I think it was about 10. And they called me and says, like, we have a problem, and maybe you have a solution for that, because 2 of these 10 have burned down. They caught fire. And so I went to visit them, and I looked at the whole situation, and then said, okay, I think I can solve that, but we have to sort of like integrate it in the design of the vacuum cleaner. So let me talk to the supplier of the vacuum cleaners. And so together with the vacuum cleaner, we found the solution, which of course is an extinguishing system from us, including the cable glands that Anamet delivers. And it started up with like a very small project, I would say. Like they bought 10 systems, and then long time nothing, and eventually, right now actually, they are buying something like in the range of 1,000 systems a year.
But what was the reason? Why did they burn off?
It's a very simple thing. I mean, it's not allowed to smoke in the bars anymore and in the restaurants, so those people smoke out on the street, and the vacuum cleaner passes by, sucks in a burning cigarette, and inside the container you have like all kinds of other stuff that was also available on the street. So and at a certain point in time it starts burning, and we did actually a test, and we did not believe that it could happen like that. So we did a test, and we did exactly what the people said that happened. And when we did that, we were just waiting. It was like nothing is happening. So we sucked in a burning cigarette and nothing happened. And then, but suddenly, and it was really like from 1 second to the other, the whole container was in fire.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Of course, if you hear like this, it's not so funny anymore. On the other hand, it's good that we have that kind of fire extinguishing systems to prevent the fire and not provoke further damage, especially to people. Paul, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure again talking to you, and it's always fun having solution-orientated chats with you. You know that we value that very much. And take care, stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralf.
To all of you, if you are looking for a solution in flexible conduit systems, cable glands, heat protection, everything when it comes to cable protection, please feel free to visit our website and contact one of our local sales reps. Thank you very much.